then I can go ahead and do the rest of the stuff I want to do in the service. Come over here to draft. I just did the catalog profile. Workflow is the important piece, right? This is the cool piece. Because I'm in a demo system, I'm just going to say create a work order only. But this is where you're going to see the various workflow that you can tie to. So again, the external benefits resource provider, Flexera, Box, an Active Directory account. Whatever I want to do, the workflow is here. What's interesting is here we're actually bringing in the service catalog from BMC Remedy, right? All those AOT, SRDs, PDTs, AOTs that you've built, you can actually have those come in here as well. If you did want to use this instead of the standard service request designer or the standard, the standard stuff you do in there, you can actually have those be part of here as well. Kind of interesting concept. Haven't played a lot with that, but again, it's just a service catalog. Put any of your service catalogs in here that you want and let us tie to them. So I'll go ahead and save them. Like I said, I'm just going to create a work order only. We're going to talk about a little difference on that in a little bit, but for now we're just going to do that. Now, because I checked work order only, I don't have any questions I have to fill out here. We're going to look at the Active Directory one in a minute, and it actually has a required field, and so I would already have a question that I had to answer. So if you said for your particular service, going out to your external service provider or internal catalog on the DevOps side, there were certain questions that had to be built out when you build out that workflow, I would see these here and I would know I need to drag them on the page. But I don't have those. And so here are all the question types that I can do as I build the service request. So I can put a new section in here and I can call it Section 1 because I'm very imaginative today. I can go ahead and say description. And again, I'm going to borrow this one. And just because that might be a little bit long actually, but that's okay. No problem. I can handle it. Then I want a text field. Maybe I want to call it a name. Name. Save. Now you remember that we had that conditional one, right? We said, was it a family member or was it me? That's a single select dropdown that I used. You or family member. I really don't have a good imagination today, so I'm going to repeat the one I used before. And then I'm going to put in another text field because it's going to be, name a family member. I'm not going to bore you with all the question types, but I did want to particularly show this one. This link, when I click on it, it's going to go ahead and link to your family member. Come on. Come on. And of course, today it's giving me a little bit of a fit. Did I do the right one? Yes. Well, normally what's supposed to come up, but of course in a demo environment, did it yesterday, it's supposed to come up to say, what are you going to link it to? So I'm going to link it to the family member. It should have popped up and said, which of those answers did you want to link it to? For some reason, it's not doing that for me. So it's just one of those days, and you all have done that. The multiple choice widget doesn't have any questions. Oh, did I not do my? Oh, you all are laughing at me right now, aren't you? Because you know what the problem was. I labeled this you or your family member, but I didn't actually put those values in. So my bad. You. And you probably would phrase it better than a you. All those in the audience that caught that, you get gold stars today. That's why it wasn't linking, because I didn't actually have multiple choice values. I'm going to keep this as the default. I'm going to say family member. User error there on the keyboard. Save it. And I've got those two options. And now when I link to it, it's going to say, I want to link that to the family member. So if it's a family member, go ahead and pop open that question. That's how easy it is to do those conditional questions. So again, you got lots of other questions here you can do, but let me go ahead and very cool page up here. I'm going to label that page, and I'm going to add a second page just again so you can see that you can do that. Check boxes, check box, add value, and add another value. I'll edit that one so they're not the same. And we'll go ahead and do that. Well, I guess I'll go ahead. I'll be nice and I'll make this yes. Again, I'm not going to bore you by pulling every question over. I just want to make it really clear to you that you can keep adding pages, you can keep adding questions, do what you need to do. And then the workflow takes care of pushing this information into the appropriate place in the back end. So I've gotten all my very, very great questions in there. I'm going to go ahead and save this and come back. So I can keep moving through. Just keep moving through this list, right? Did my questions? So I want to tie a service level to this. This is outside, of course, the remedy service level management, because stuff is going to other vendors. So I probably want to have some kind of SLA tied to this so that I know that my vendor is doing their job, right? So I can go ahead and do that, add a service level to it. Cost adjustment is around, maybe I'm signing up for that American Express card and it's normally got an annual fee of $30, but maybe our supplier is giving us a 50% discount the first year, something like that. I can do offsets against those costs if I want to. I'm not an accountant. I'm not going to bother doing that. And then CMDB is basically being able to link to service offerings in the CMDB. Not going to worry about that for this one either, because technically in the real world, this will be going to that external provider. So you just walk through those sections. You pick the workflow. Workflow is very important. Building those connectors is very important. That's where the hard work is. Connecting to them is easy. Filling out the questions is easy, and the other things as well. When I'm happy with it, I go ahead and submit it for approval. And luckily, I'm in as Hannah, so I can approve this. Once this gets submitted, I can go ahead and do the approval. And go ahead and approve and publish. And again, different people can have different roles, different things going on in here, so the right kinds of things happen at the right time. So that's great. I've got a service. How do I expose the service? And there are two things we do. One is the idea of the virtual marketplaces. You can have marketplaces of various things, and these marketplaces can be visible to different people. You can see on this one I only have 2 users. This one I have 7 users. You can have users and groups to have it visible. I'm going to go to User Bundle and put it in here. And we can see I've got 7 users. If I wanted to add more users, I could. So you've got some, kind of the idea of the entitlements going on here. Where I can use user or groups to have entitlements here on who gets to see this. Here's where the services are that are part of this user bundle. I want to add another service. I'm going to go to my service catalog and find my benefit update. Oh, there it is, right there. Benefits update. Don't even have to search for it. Add it in, and now it's part of that virtual marketplace. That just helps me manage it, knows what's going on, what kind of things are happening with it as well. But the MyIT side, I'm going to switch to MyIT in just a second. This is, again, all Service Broker. All Service Broker Edition, connecting to the workflow, looking at it, attaching it to a user, etc. The MyIT side, let me find my MyIT Administration Console. And for those of you familiar with the MyIT Administration, I go to Service Request, and I find the catalog section I want to use. And again, this is tying on my end user. Now I'm back to my end user. I know I just flipped that really fast. But on my end user, I've got a section here called User Resources. That's where I put my benefits question before. And by the way, those of you not on MyIT 3.1 yet, you can put your knowledge articles out here too. So I've got a section here, User Resources. I've got these other sections. Obviously, for the demo, I'm going to put it in the top section. So I'm on my User Resources. I come down here. I've got my Service Broker items. I can search if I want to, because that's much easier for me. And my benefits update should be showing there. I'm not sure why it isn't. It may just be a timing thing. But I would see my benefits update there, just like I'm seeing my benefits question. And it could be that I need to log out or log in or refresh. So that's how I tie it to MyIT by those catalog sections. And if you haven't done the 3.1 yet, being able to expose your knowledge articles out there means that on your top catalog section, you're going to be able to expose a how-to, right? That's one of the things people often ask. In MyIT, how can I have a how-to section, right? Well, you could have a how-to be the first thing in your very top catalog section so people learn how to use MyIT. Okay, I refreshed. There's my benefits update. I add the selected item. I'm going to move it up so I can find it again. Go ahead and save. And that's how I'm exposing it to my users in MyIT. They have to be part of the group that's allowed to see it, but then I put it in the appropriate catalog section, and then hopefully when they come in and they update, and again, this may take a second, we'll see what happens. And taking a second, so it'll show up. Let's go ahead and type benefits, benefit update, and now we've got that service request that we built using Service Broker. Those are my details. I request now. I defaulted to you this time. So when I pick family member, it pops up another question. Go back to you, it doesn't. I go to my next page. I've got that checkbox there, that very exciting checkbox question. I go ahead and complete the request. And because I tied it to work order, it's going to go ahead and create a work order. So now, again, real world, I would not be creating a work order. I'd be going to some other kind of catalog, but it's all in the same place as my other service request definitions from Remedy as well. Questions so far? Is there anything in the Q&A window? There were just one or two other things I wanted to talk about. We are at 33 minutes. I won't take too long. Okay, two things I wanted to mention. I'm going to go back to my service broker. I'm going to go back to my services, and I'm going to pick one that I have in draft. This adds user to AD. I'm going to open it up. The main reason I want to show this is I tied it to a different workflow, tied it to the AD workflow. So when I come into questions, you can see on available questions, it had the AD group. So I had to drag that over here as part of my form. I should change this because they said you have to pass us that information. In order for me to create a user automatically in Active Directory, I'm going to need the AD group. So it told me right there that I needed that process question. Now, in terms of the workflow themselves, because I know there's somebody on the phone worrying about that, when I come into workflows, let me go ahead and bring up that particular workflow. And I can see I've got a workflow where I'm going to add my active user to group. I've got some parameters over here that I'm doing, and the various things that are going on over here. So when I tie it to my AD group, this kind of thing is going to happen, and it's going to go to that Active Directory connector. So this is where some of the power, so there's two big power pieces, right? One is building the connector. So whatever connector I'm going to, making sure I've got the SDK, the API, whatever, built appropriately. The other piece is this workflow. If I want to throw an approval workflow in the middle here, how do I want to do that? Well, then I've got to throw that in there, connect it in. And hopefully most of, your service catalog users or managers aren't going to have to do this. I was kind of complaining about that up there. This isn't a good picture. I'm really not the best at these workflows. But this is where you build the workflows to do various things. And I'm going to scroll slowly down on the left. You can see things around ADs, we have things around approvals, we've got Flexera, we've got Remedy. So if you did want to build your workflow in Remedy, instead of building PDTs or other kinds of things, you could absolutely do that. And then we've got some service broker stuff. So as you get more connectors in your system, you'll have more workflow items, and you'll be able to do what you need to do. So that's the idea of workflow. That's as far as I'm going into workflow, because I don't think that's the most interesting piece. To me, the interesting piece is being able to tie your services to the workflow, have those questions answered, have it happen regardless of where it's going in the back end, and it's all going to appear in the front end. That's my nutshell in Service Broker in a few more minutes than I meant to take, but hopefully that is making sense to everybody out there. Dick, did I do okay on that?
Oh, you did great. Excellent job. In fact, I've got a couple of questions here.
Okay.
So, and now, by the way, if anybody else has any other questions, now would be a good time to submit them. The first thing that I thought of is when you went through this is, wow, wouldn't this be a nice thing to have for my own personal, if I could have my own personal service broker, right? Because everybody has, you might have a banking website you go to, maybe there's a credit card website, maybe you've got a health insurance website. If you could just have one, wouldn't that make your life a lot easier? And even more so, and I don't know about this question, but how does single sign-on work, right? Because all these different sites have different passwords, and they're all have different password rules, and so you can't use the same password. You got to change them all the time. How does that work with Service Broker Express or Service Broker? MyIT
I totally get you on the wanting the personal one. I was just thinking about here at RightStar when I came aboard, I had to learn all the new sites, right? So wouldn't it be great if I had a service here that I could request, go get my latest pay stub, instead of me having to log onto our ADP site. Go get my, the status of my expense report, instead of me having to log onto the expense report site. Wouldn't that be wonderful to have that all in one place and not have to remember all those? In terms of the passwords, that can be part of what you pass over. It kind of depends. In the Salesforce world, You can have the Active Directory, your local Active Directory password, be your Salesforce password as well, for example. So you might not have to pass it, or it would pass automatically. For some of those other sites, you'd probably have to enter your password into the service request, masked, of course, and then the workflow would take care of putting it over there if you need your password to get. Obviously, if I'm going to get a copy of my paycheck, I'm going to have to pass a password there so nobody else is requesting that. So that it would be done through the parameters.